Well, hello. I am not going to do any editing on this video because I don't have time. Been doing a whole lot of overtime lately, but I really got to share this with you about how I've gotten out of credit card debt using kingdom principles that we find here in the Bible. And I want to share two scriptures with you real quick that, sorry, that's probably really loud in your ear. Two scriptures that really kind of set it in for me, that really taught me to change my mindset about money and how to go from a negative cash flow to a positive cash flow and actually paying stuff off, and so on and so forth. Blah, 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 blah. I can't seem to English very well today. But the first one we're going to look at is in Mark 6 verse 30, where it talks about Jesus feeds the 5,000. So we're going to read that real quick, and I'll tell you what kind of stands out in that scripture to me. All right, so let's read this real quick. I'm going to apologize in advance. My reading is crappy. Let's see, verse 30. The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw the large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. By this time it was late in the day, so the disciples came to him. "This is a remote place," they said, "and also already very late. Send the people away so they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." But he answered them, "You give them something to eat." They said to him, "That would take 8 months of man's wages. Are we going to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? How many loaves do you have?" He asked. "Go and see." When they found out, they said, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples to set before the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up the 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of men who had eaten was 5,000. So what I think about that is we're talking about the fragments within that. So when they picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish, okay, they picked up all the pieces that were laying around and end up with more than what they started with. Now, obviously, there's a whole huge teaching on that in the context of it, and it's just great. But picking up the remnants, right? Picking up the broken pieces, the small things, okay? Within finances, I took that to understand, that the small things that are coming out of your budget, things that you may not be using. Like, let's say you have a Netflix account or something that you don't actually use, or whatever streaming something that you might have that you don't use, you can get rid of that. Other fragments was our heating bill, or AC electric bill, was really high when I was learning these principles, and through praying in the Spirit, the Lord showed me where I'm losing energy costs, and I ended up saving about $200 a month on the electric bill. That's kind of embarrassing, but there's a few spots of the house that were kind of open that needed sealed up, and then the AC condenser outside it needed cleaned. The refrigerator in the garage was sucking so much juice, and I didn't have anything in there except some frozen deer meat. But that was costing a lot because the heat would hit the big garage door and just heat up the garage in the evening time. So that refrigerator freezer would just run all night long. So those are all fragments, all little things where you can save money here and there to help get yourself into a positive cash flow to begin to pay off credit card debt. And as you pay off that credit card, you take that payment that you're using for that and apply it to the next one. I believe they call that snowball banking, maybe. Another thing was I learned about velocity banking, and I actually utilized that, and that's brought down debt quite a bit. So we have that scripture. Let's jump over now over into the Old Testament. 2 Kings chapter 4. This one says the widow's oil. And out of this, we're going to read this real quick, but there's so many teachings that can be happening on this, but the one that the phrase in here, I'll show it to you, that kind of got to me. All right, so this is 2 Kings verse 4. The wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elijah, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord." I told you, English is bad. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves. Elijah replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" That's the phrase. What do you have in your house? And we'll come back to that. "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a little oil." Elijah said, "Go around and ask your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars. As each is filled, put it to one side." She left him and afterwards shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her sons, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There's not a jar left." The oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go, sell the oil, pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." So that phrase, "What do you have in your house?" When I read that, I was in my garage actually when I read that. I was kind of looking around. Like, what do you have in your house? And in that moment, I saw a bunch of stuff that has been stored up on shelves for years. Audio equipment, for car audio I wasn't using anymore. Didn't really have any plans for it. Just extra stuff. My shed was full of, stuff I wasn't using, go-karts and whatnot. And so I got some of those fixed up, and I sold those and sold the extra audio equipment, and was able to apply that stuff to credit card debt. And once again, that got the positive cash flow from paying off those couple small credit cards that freed up a couple $100 a month, which I was able to then apply to the next credit card and so on and whatnot. Later I learned about sowing seeds and harvesting and really digging into how God's kingdom works and stuff. But that's how I got started, from $100 negative cash flow every month to within 14 months being completely credit card debt free. 7 credit cards paid off. We do still use the cards. Like the Target credit card gets 5% off your entire purchase whenever you use it. So we'll use it and then pay it off the very next Friday, next payday. So it pays off right away. We use the Discover card for absolutely everything. So we get our 5% cash back, 1% cash back on everything, and pay it off every paycheck. So we're actually getting free money from their credit cards where we used to have to pay them. But it was that bad. We were, like I said, in negative cash flow. We were using the Target credit card before just to buy groceries because we were so upside down and everything, and now we use it for whenever we need to buy something from Target and we want to get 5% off right away and pay it off next payday, and so we don't get charged any interest, and we're actually saving money using credit cards and getting free money using credit cards. So praise Jesus for that. But those are the two verses or two scriptures that I use to get started, to learn about the kingdom and getting debt paid off and getting to a positive cash flow. So appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you on the next one. Stay crisp. Stay crisp. I don't know. It's cool though.